The Justice Department launching an investigation into who leaked the existence of the president's top-secret domestic spying program to the New York Times. The president said the disclosure of the program put American lives at risk. Joining me now to talk about the responsibilities a reporter has when dealing with sensitive information is media analyst Bain. He covered the White House during 4 administrations. Thanks for being here, Mr. Bain.
Good to be here. Happy New Year to you.
You too. So during your time as a journalist, you were a managing editor in lots of newsrooms around the country. So I'm wondering, how do you think the editors of the New York Times decided to go with this NSA eavesdropping story, and how heavily would they have weighed national security?
I think national security would have been one of the factors that they weighed, but there are others as well. You know, the way this town works, and you know this as well, and certainly the Fox News Bureau people here know this town is an engine of whistleblowing. Washington may have a baseball team, but by golly, the national sport around here is whistleblowing. And all the journalists, and more journalists per square meter in Washington than any other place on earth, all the journalists in Washington know that. It's a gaping maw of whistleblowing and people ready to receive that secretive information. And the way what that means is there's almost a daily decision among editors of what to release, what not to release. In the New York Times case, they actually went to the White House, told them what they had, and then delayed that information. Now, there's some talk about the New York Times that has a publishing deal with a book coming out and delayed for the book publication. I think it was far more basic than that. I think they were literally acquiescing to the White House request that national security was at stake. Now, why did they finally do it? I tell you, that question has not been answered, and Bill Keller, the executive editor of the New York Times, really should be required to answer it.
Well, you make a very good point, because the ombudsman for the New York Times today had a column in which he said he asked the executive editor of the New York Times and the publisher about their decision-making in terms of why they waited a year, and his request was promptly denied. So do you think the executive editor owes their readers an explanation?
That's going to be, I think he does. I think that every newspaper editor, because they're not elected, they're simply appointed by the publisher of the newspaper, every executive editor has that public responsibility churning around in their daily decision making. And because these editors are responsible to the people, they need to sometimes explain why they have delayed to give out news, or why they have pushed a story to the front page, which maybe should have been on page 30. So it's a tough thing, and I think they are required to explain that.
And particularly the New York Times, in light of the fact that they've had some journalistic debacles over the past couple of years, and they had vowed to be more transparent.
Well, I think the New York Times vowing to be transparent is not exactly a promise that's going to be kept as a New Year's resolution in 2006 either. And I think it's the same thing with every major newspaper and news organization. Some things you just can't talk about as a news organization. Here at Fox News, I think there are probably a lot of reporters who now are sitting on some stories, or who may have some information they just can't release yet, either because they don't have the information completed, they don't have the sourcing finalized, or whatever. But there are a lot of reporters around Washington and New York who have to sit on stories for those kinds of reasons as well.
Well, you have a lot of experience in this. We mentioned in your intro that you covered 4 different White House administrations during your time as a journalist. So how do you think the Bush administration is dealing with this leak story versus some others that you've covered?
Well, to tell you the truth, there have been a lot of leaks. Back during the Carter administration, there was one instance when I had to sit on a piece of information, and the reason for that was very clear. The information I had to sit on was the failed hostage rescue attempt. I was at the White House when that process was beginning, and couldn't go on the air to talk about it because it would have endangered the rescue attempt itself. And so it was really a tearing, a difficult decision for me to make, which I had to make pretty much on my own, in addition with my editors at NBC News. And it was a very, very tough time. But I think that I think a lot of the decisions that are being made are those kinds of decisions. Spur of the moment, top of mind, you know, how do we balance this? And by the way, we have 30 seconds to make this decision. So I think a lot of it's immediate.
Yeah, we know it well. So about this NSA leak investigation, do you think we're going to see more reporters subpoenaed, more of their notebooks being turned over?
I don't think so. I believe that there's going to be a lot of tempest in a teapot about this, but neither the Democrats, none of the Democrats, even though there's a lot of hue and cry about this, are really committed to the idea of major smackdowns on reporter access to information like this. The Bush administration is going to go after this. The Justice Department has already begun the investigation. But ultimately, whistleblowing in Washington, as I said before, is the national sport of this town. And believe me, it's not going to go away. I promise you.
Okay.
It's going to continue.
Jackson Bain, media analyst, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
This is a Fox News alert. President Bush has ended his week-long vacation at his Texas ranch, and he stopped off this morning to visit wounded American soldiers before heading back to the White House. He boarded a helicopter this morning for a quick trip to the Brooke Army Medical Center that's in San Antonio, Texas. He visited wounded troops there and awarded 9 Purple Hearts. In the past year, the president
biological science, and only through the basic research, through this healthy growth of the basic research into industry, the U.S. can keep in the leading edge over to the next century.
Thank you very much, Dr. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Give a round of applause. Very nice.
Okay.
We have about 5 minutes of this whole presentation.
Okay, 5 minutes. Thanks for letting me come and address you guys and men and women today. As you embark, you're about to embark and go out in the state for another year of talking to rural agricultural agents, farmers and ranchers about improving livestock and agricultural efficiency. I'd also like for you, I know your agenda's very busy when you go out and you have limited time, and you have your messages to give out how to take what we know about livestock and livestock efficiency and take it to the farmers and ranchers. I would like you to take another message with you this year as you talk to these individuals who are a very important part of our society, our voting constituency as they are. I would like you to go out and discuss with them that agricultural production is only moving at a snail's pace to what it could be. Farmers are an endangered species, ranchers are an endangered species in this state and other states as well. These people are wanting to know